I'm going to tell you about one of the worst video games I have ever played in my life. It's a shocking experience as far as motion mechanics and gameplay goes, and it also features one of my favourite video game characters of all time. It's time to talk about Sonic Free Riders. This was the third Sonic Riders game, a racing spin-off where Sonic and friends race around on hoverboards or extreme gear and zoom around racing in fun, extreme sports inspired tracks. There are the standard kart racing game tropes: boost at the start of the race, get items and use them to attack opponents, use techniques and shortcuts and win races. It's got a story mode with a whole tutorial section as well. A mysterious figure announces a competition and Sonic and friends enter, but wouldn't you know it, it's a devious plot by Dr. Eggman to steal their data. So Eggman was stealing your data before Facebook and Twitter were. Shocking, but true. It's just a device to get you to do more races with different objectives. Nothing to write home about, but I digress. You can play as quite a few different Sonic characters in this title, which is fantastic. The Babylon Rogues reappear, you can use Shadow, Amy, Rouge, and more on different boards and customize them to your preferences. Now at this point I want to quickly tell you that I really liked the previous two games, Sonic Riders and Zero Gravity. They both played well, were really fun at a high level, and Zero Gravity was actually my favourite racing game of all time for quite a while. They were both button controlled and featured really interesting abilities, well designed tracks, and cool mechanics. Sonic Free Riders is quite different. This is a purely motion controlled game for the Xbox 360 and uses the Kinect system as a method of control. The Kinect was a motion sensor that used cameras to figure your body position and then use your real life motions as inputs, as if your body was the controller. It's an innovative system that had a few flaws and is still seen as the best way to play Just Dance on the Xbox. So as your body is the controller, you stand as if you're on the extreme gear and it will push you forward. Leaning forward helps you pick up speed. You lean left and right to turn left and right. You jump in real life and it makes you jump in game. You shake the item box in your hand and it will activate. There are 3 different character types as well: speed, power and fly, and each have specific actions that you can do. With speed it doesn't particularly change how you play because you're grinding on a rail. Power has you throw a punch in real life to hit obstacles out of the way, and then fly has you T-pose to glide through the air so that you can use boost rings to take different paths. It's actually quite intuitive, like a lot of Kinect games. The motion that you think you need to do is often the motion that actually is required. So, you know, in order to go faster, lean forward. If you want to turn left, stuff like that. It makes sense as far as using the body for your controller, and it's a really cool concept for a video game, honestly. But let's address the elephant in the room. Kinects were tricky because good amounts of room and decent lighting were pretty much required to get it to work right. Since the camera picks up the body's movement, it's important to get the right conditions. Well, I tried multiple places, I tried multiple lighting options, I even tried different t-shirts, and I got it to a point that I could reliably and consistently control other games like Dance Central and Kinect Adventures. But not Sonic Free Riders. I genuinely think that they didn't implement motion control or program it properly because it is very, very, very difficult to get any level of consistency with the motion controls in this game. Whilst with some over-exaggerated movements I could get basics down like turning and reaching out, things like jumps, kicks and speeding up just turned into a bit of a crapshoot. Anything that needed any level of precision felt awful, and even basic movements that should register repeatedly without fail, like punching as a power character, is still not reliable enough to call this good. I tried my hand positions, body positions, my different rooms, my different lightings, my different t-shirts as I said, and just no level of consistency. The same issues would just persist, and it was incredibly frustrating. One of the worst offenders in my opinion was performing tricks. You're meant to crouch and then jump and spin around in the air, but this was not reliable. Now I'm not an expert on how this works, but your entire height is changing at several different levels during this movement. So you're starting crouched, then you're going a lot higher, and then your body mass turning round, and then when you land, you are at your normal height. So theoretically, if it's only taking images every few frames, your height difference should be enough to pick it up, but it just won't reliably do it. It's really, really odd. Another thing that sucked was flight. This just would not work well at all. I tried just T-posing, I saw people saying to flap their arms to make it work, and I read guides on the motions as well, but I couldn't get this to register consistently either, and that is the problem. The gameplay is completely marred by just how inconsistent the motion detection is, and it's a real shame because there's a lot of good game elements here. The track design is pretty cool, there's nothing special, but there are decent tracks with multiple pathways and fun set pieces. There is customization in extreme gear aesthetics and abilities, meaning that if you get a style that really gels with you, you can lean into it and get it to work with most characters. Notice I didn't say when, I said if. Content-wise, there are plenty of things to do, like time trials, missions, story, online races and such, racing stageables essentially, but it's all there. There's enough actual content here to make a decent racing game, but when you can't play it properly, it just sours it, and there isn't anything special enough to push through the motion control issues. Even your score attack elements of your missions are pretty frustrating when you fail multiple times due to poor motion detection. I've owned the game since it released, back when the Kinect launched, and I have tried several different times over the years to play it. I have literal witnesses to this, and this is arguably the smoothest time I've had playing Free Riders, but it is still so inconsistent and so poor that you cannot play it at a serious level. It is one of the most unplayable games I've ever done, and I would say the worst motion control detection I've ever encountered in a video game. So that's it as a game, but as with my motion control reviews, I always ask a question: can this game be a workout or at least an active gaming session? The weird thing here is that it's a yes, but I'm not entirely convinced that it's for the right reasons. You see, Sonic Free Riders does include a lot of elements that can make up a workout. Aerobic movements, mild explosive movements with your jumping and twisting in midair, you've got your punches, you wave your arms, there's a lot of dynamic motion. But I think if the game's motion controls functioned as intended, then it wouldn't be as effective as it is. You see, as I mentioned earlier, I had to really over-exaggerate my movements in order for the game to pick up properly. So that means I was stretching out a lot more and moving a lot more dynamically than realistically you should have to in order to get the game to pick up. A great example is the jump. If I just did a small but clear jump, that should register, but that's not what was working, so I was properly crouching all the way down, throwing myself up in the air, and that was a lot more dynamic and a lot more explosive, using more energy than I would have to if it would just pick up a normal jump. You get where I'm coming from. And even after all of that extra effort, it doesn't really register that much more consistently. So after several hours of gameplay, my conclusion for this as a workout was that yes, I was out of breath and I was sweaty, so there was aerobic work happening, and it is a workout, but if the game detected properly, I don't think I would be using those same higher levels of energy. And after all of that, it is just a poor game. Yes, it's a workout, but it's not really a fun one because it's more frustrating than anything else. The game elements are decent, but I'm gonna play Mario Kart, Crash Team Racing or Team Sonic Racing if I need a good racing fix, because they do everything that this game does, but better. And if I want my Riders fix, well, I'll just boot up Riders or Zero Gravity if I've got access to it, or otherwise I'll play that Sonic Speed Simulator on Roblox, because that's got Extreme Gear now and it's arguably better than this. There isn't a single thing in this game that isn't done better and more competently anywhere else. And so this gains the double trophy, in my opinion, of being not only the worst motion control game I've ever played, but also the worst Sonic game I've ever played. That being said, I do genuinely feel that Sonic Free Riders, if it were re-released with Joy-Con controllers on the Switch, could maybe work. It's got enough game elements to work and be a competent racing game. It's just because that motion control detection doesn't work, it's a bit rough. But this could also be a great way to use the leg strap from Ring Fit Adventure and your Joy-Con in order to do the other motion controls. That could possibly work. They'd have to do a lot of testing, but I feel that that could make the game a little bit more redeemable than it is in its current state. It wouldn't be revolutionary by any means, but at least it'd be worth checking out. Anyway, at least Sonic Frontiers is going to be a banger of a game. I am going to be covering that game, but I'm not going to be doing it on this channel. I will be heading over to Master Trainer Gaming for that, so if you want to swing by there, if you like your discussions and your news and videos like I do here, but for like Sonic, jump over there, really appreciate that. And I do want to say thank you so much to my patrons like Rain and Sick Hippie for their amazing support that they give through Patreon. I really appreciate all of that support, and if you want early access reviews like this, then swing on over there. Really cool. Fantastic. Well, thank you for your time today. Make sure you subscribe to this channel as well. If you've got any thoughts on Sonic Free Riders, I'd love to hear them, but if you get the opportunity to try the game, don't.